really, and a lot of times pointing out instructions. Sojo Rinpoche has mentioned, for example, that his talks are non-instructional or educational. They're in the style of Menga, which is direct advice, fifth instruction in Dzogchen. So we pick up the Vipassana a lot of times through these talks, even not knowing that we're getting into that field. But let's say we practice, there's a merger of breather and breath rather, and at some point we may be able, as is done in the Enigma, actually, the TNMC, Tibetan Enigma Meditation Center, uses a style of meditation which is without object. This practice in Zen, for example, is called Shikantaza. It's an advanced practice, practiced more in the Soto schools, but Philip Kapler-Roshi used to teach it to some students. He used to teach a lot of koan too, which is a very intense form of practice, but we're talking about a different thing. We might shift into objectless meditation, which means we drop the object, and we find that awareness spontaneously is present. So we still practice mindfulness by allowing this awareness to be there. As Chogyam Trungpa said, mind suspended in the middle of nowhere. But, when we track off, we use alertness to notice that we tracked off and come back. Sojo Rinpoche says we should give, 25% to the breath or to the awareness, 25% to the alertness to coming back, and 50% let loose. Spacious, just in space, which is our nature, actually. So in this stage, we're still in the shamatha stage. It's not necessarily that there's a recognition, an ability to actually experience directly that mirror that I talked about, or that screen, which is really crystal clear, pure awareness, which is Rigpa, which is what is recognized when there's a recognition of the nature of mind, and meaning mind being discursive thought, all these things, and then the nature of mind is the space of Rigpa, which is interesting because, like the mirror, does not participate in the risings, even though the risings occur, does not participate in infusing all the positive qualities of Buddhahood into our world and our personality. But they come. The logical mind cannot experience, cannot think of something that is completely even, still, unborn, uncaused, and yet from it flow all these qualities. It's called empty and cognizant. In other words, there's no substance but cognizant from the word cognition. To see, to perceive. It's empty yet it perceives. It's also warm and compassionate. The mind cannot think logically about these categories. However, this is the experience. So we're back to the shamatha level of awareness with no object. We find that we can allow mind to be suspended, like we said, in the middle of nowhere. That there's a presence, we're present, not even we, but just presence. You become distracted, alertness notices it, you come back, or brings you back present to awareness. Now, the final level that we can talk about is the level of recognition of the nature of mind. This occurs through gradual practice, gradual instructions, and it is said sometimes, the teacher like Trangu Rinpoche from the Karma school says he prefers that students actually go through this gradual process because their Rigpa, experience of Rigpa is much more stable. But other teachers, for example, Tulku Ordian, given the times, used to introduce people as quickly as possible to Rigpa and introduce them to the Dzogchen way of practicing, which I mentioned in a moment, as quickly as possible because of the corrupt natures of the times and the danger of the teachings disappearing in the world. So there's those two approaches. But the recognition in the latter case, in the case of how Tulku Ordian might teach, is precipitated by instructions and looking at the nature of mind, looking at the mind. Does it have a color? Does it have a form? Where is it? Is it anywhere? Where do thoughts come from? Where do thoughts go? Who is looking? All these lead to the conclusion, when properly done, and I don't want to ruin the ending. This is a spoiler, but believing in this is not sufficient, and you should not believe in it, but you should expect that you will directly acknowledge this, directly see it through hard work and long periods of meditation. Weeks, days, months, not long sessions necessarily. But the conclusion is the mind is empty. There's no substance to it. Comes from nowhere, goes nowhere. Things appear in it, and what you perceive is this mirror, this computer screen that I'm talking about, this space in the bubble where everything is contained. It's a clear, pure awareness, and that's the recognition. Once you have achieved the recognition, then eventually what you start practicing is called non-meditation. It does not mean not meditation, but it means it's a practice of meditation without willful meditation, so to speak, completely spontaneous meditation. From there we get the story of the yogi, Dzogchen yogi. There was a scholar that was very jealous. The scholar went to the yogi and says, you Dzogchen folks, all you do is sit around and meditate. The yogi said, he never meditates. So the scholar says, I knew it! I knew it! I knew you were a fake. I knew you didn't have any enlightenment. And the yogi said, but when am I ever distracted? And that's the point. When we practice Dzogchen, it's a 24/7 kind of proposition. Spontaneous awareness, spontaneous recognition. There's still an element of alertness to recognize when we're gone and come back, but there isn't a willful placing of the mind. You do nothing with the mind. You allow this awareness to spontaneously manifest. And with practice, these periods become longer and longer and longer. Eckhart Tolle, in his own style, which is sort of a leap into the present, which would be expected of a Dzogchen practitioner, again says that as you practice this way, the periods of presence and clarity become longer and longer. Of course, once you have continuous presence, that's Buddhahood, and it's the highest level you can expect in the body. There's other effects that this practice have other effects, other consequences that I'm not going to discuss right now. But this is the ultimate, and this is true meditation. What true meditation is simply this spontaneous awareness of non-meditation. Beautiful state, joyful state, ultimately a thoughtless state. Once we're free from thought, we're free from karma, we're free from delusive thought, and the feelings become transmuted into what we call the wisdoms. There's 5 defiled feelings, pride, anger, jealousy, and so on, and these become transmuted into wisdoms, positive wisdoms. So the realized yogi still experiences what we call emotion or feeling, but they're true and clear and clean, and they're messages from the universe, you might say, that are true and accurate. I will leave you with that. With thoughts of meditation. You probably have practice, so this might become a little bit of a signpost. Of course, you need to practice with a teacher. And if you never have practice, it's time to get started at level 1, square one. You always start where you are. As my children said, start where you are, start where you are, start where you are. And this is it. I hope you subscribe and find that you're getting other helpful conversations. I hope this one was. Good night.